The Senate will come to order. The senators will take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning, guests. The senators and those in our gallery, if you are able, please stand. We will be led in prayer this morning by Pastor Carlos Rivera of New Life Outreach Church in Richmond. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Reagan Griffith of Midlothian.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we're so excited to be here today. Sovereign Almighty God, our Creator and Sustainer, the God of all power and all authority, I thank you for the men and women who serve and lead our great Commonwealth, and for their families as well. Please provide for them with reminders every day of why they decided to dedicate their lives to public service, and use that commitment to encourage and inspire them to make a difference. Give them peace when they work, and when they work, takes them away from home as well. We also pray specifically for wives and husbands and children of our servant leaders. We ask that you give them wisdom on how to best support one another while their loved ones are away working. We pray for the staff members. We are so grateful for them, God. They have such an important job keeping the offices running as they should. Thank you for the ways you've gifted them to provide support so well. Wrap your arms around these men and women to show them love, grace, strength, and encouragement. Provide them with the knowledge needed to approach each situation in the best way possible. And God, give them the stamina and endurance to approach each day. I pray for relationships among leaders and among others as well. God, we are so grateful to be living in a democracy where many play a part in making sure the needs and desires of the people of our great Commonwealth are heard and met. As they work together to find solutions to difficult problems, we ask that you guide them to speak respectfully and with humility to one another. Help them to show love to those they interact with and to be a worthy advocate for their constituents and for others as well. God, we thank you for leaders who care about issues impacting the most vulnerable. We ask that you help them to care for the people in need as well. And Father, I pray for our lawmakers to represent the people of Virginia with honesty and integrity. We are so grateful that we have leaders that listen to us. God, please be with our government officials as they weigh the pros and cons of each request. Give them wisdom on how to best represent everyone. We also ask that you give our leaders courage so that even when it's hard, they would continue to pass laws and boldly represent the needs of the people of Virginia and those of the most vulnerable as well. I thank you for a productive day today, and I pray your blessing and divine health over all of our leaders here today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023.
The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All those in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 6.
Ayes 34, no 6. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
I do not have any, Madam President.
We are at the time in our morning hour when we will discover who all of our wonderful guests are. And the normal procedure is that the senator will rise and introduce you. And if you would rise at that time, and then I will speak. And after my remarks, if you would hold your applause until my remarks, then it will go a little bit smoother. And so with that, I first call upon Senator Reeves, the senator from Spotsylvania.
Well, good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the body, today our invocation was provided by Pastor Carlos Rivera of the New Life Outreach Church here in Richmond, and I just want to wish him. He's also accompanied by his son Victor Rivera and Adrian Medellin, who is his nephew. And Pastor, thank you for your words and encouragement today, and I know we all take that to heart. Madam President, if you would give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Good morning again, Pastor, and thank you for that wonderful prayer, and thank you for all that you do in our community to help those who are unable to help themselves, for the sacrifices that you make. And sons, got a great father there. Senator, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate.
Madam President?
The senator.
If I can continue, I have one more.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, in the gallery today are two very distinguished gentlemen who, first and foremost, I call them friends. Secondly, I call them retirees, veterans, and they're from the Military Officers Association of America, MOA, Madam President. In the gallery today is Colonel Monty Zimmerman, who did 30 years and 9 months. He's got his Combat Action Badge, Legion of Merit, and a Bronze Star, just to name a few of the awards he's received, but he's currently a PhD student finishing up his PhD. Also, Commander Link Smith did 25 years in the Navy as a surface line and public affairs officer, but more importantly, they're at every GAMVIC. They've continuously and constantly work on our veterans issues, and I just want to thank them for the years that I've been co-chair of GAMVIC and them showing up each and every time and helping us advocate on behalf of our veterans. Thank you, Madam President.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for your service to your country. Thank you for, you've got, it seems, 55 years of service between the two of you, and you're still serving. Thank you so very much. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, last week we passed Senate Joint Resolution 349. I think the House agreed to it yesterday. It honors the life of Wes Freed. Wes Freed was a native of Augusta County. So I say this I share this presentation with the senator from Augusta County. He was a native of Augusta. He came here to school, to VCU, and he to study art. He played the guitar and sang, played with a lot of alternative rock and roll and country rock bands. In 1997, he met the drive-by truckers, and beginning and with their breakthrough record, Southern Rock Opera, that was released in 2001, he started doing the cover art for the Drive-By Trucker albums. He did it for 10 albums. When he passed away, I read where Patterson Hood, one of the founders of the Drive-By Truckers, said that indeed Wes Freed was a member of that band too. We're joined in the gallery by his family, and that includes his brother Kevin Freed and his wife Laura, Margaret Freed, who is Wes's mother, Mark Lynn, who's here on behalf of the Drive-By Truckers, and Jackie Folks, Wes's partner. I'd ask you, Madam President, to give them the warm greetings to the Senate.
Good morning to you. Good morning, family. And we are so glad for your family and for Wes. And we thank him for the contributions that he has certainly made to us. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the senator from Fauquier.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
Madam President, I always say I wish that more people would come and visit me during the Senate session, and you will notice today that they all came. I saved the best for last. Madam President, on behalf of myself and the gentleman from Spotsylvania, I would like to direct my colleagues' attention in the gallery to a really big group. They are amazing and wonderful, engaged people back at home in my community and outside of my district as well. They are here, and they're organized by Chris and Debbie Cloud, who are the head of the American Life and Liberty PAC, and they organize a huge bonfire in our community and get all of these people together to socialize and to engage on issues, and they're here today to do that. They're visiting us. They're going to go meet with the Attorney General's office, and hopefully we will impress them by what they see here on the floor. I'm just going to take one quick minute and tell you who they are. We have Achille McCullough, who is the Fauquier County GOP Youth Advisory Committee member. We have General Greg Schumacher and his wife Kathy, and Greg is the Fauquier County GOP chair. We have Joe Mobley, who is a radio talk show host. We have Angela Olenek, who is the Stafford GOP vice chair. We have Tony DeTora, who is the Stafford GOP chair. We have Jim Parmalee, who I know is known to many of you, who is a prolific communicator and Republican activist. We have Pastor Andres Ruiz and Abraham Orlang. They were both from One Vision Broadcasting. We also have Jennifer Granzow, Kevin Shiflett, John Stinson, and George Lockwood, who are activists and very much engaged in our community, and Ron Wilcox, who many of you know from Secure America Alliance. And so with that, Madam President, I know you had a moment to meet with them when they were on the floor earlier, but I would ask that you welcome them and please extend to them the gracious good morning from the Senate. Thank you.
Yes, good morning again. And we're so glad that you're here observing your Senate, as you should be, because, of course, this is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And y'all are the people, as we say in the South. So thank you for coming, Senators. Let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Donovan, Senator from Enrico.
Good morning, Madam President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, we have a young man who is here shadowing me, having an opportunity to get a look at what his legislature actually does. His name is Brendan, and I'm going to get it wrong, and I'd practice it, Scheidkraut. Oh, thank you, Lord. In any case, Madam President, let me tell you a little bit about him, because it's exciting to see these young people get involved. He's a student at University of Richmond, majoring in both political science and healthcare studies. He's a member of the Richmond College Government Association, and he wants to learn more about how you actually manage a state government and make changes that can result in better outcomes. So we're really happy to have him here today, and I hope you'll give him the warm welcome of the Senate, Madam President.
Good morning, Brendan. I am not going to attempt your last name. But we thank you for wanting to be part of all this to the point of shadowing your senator. And indeed, what an experience you're getting And what an opportunity, and I know you're not taking it lightly. Thank you for being involved. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Chase, the junior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today in the gallery, I would like to introduce my intern that has been with me during this session, and his name is Daniel Byler. Daniel, I've actually known since he was born. He goes to my church, lives in my community, and I know his mother very well. He has just recently graduated from homeschooling, and he's just done a wonderful job. He is super smart, Madam President, and he actually handles my calendar for me every morning, and I am just super grateful to have him here with us this session, and just ask you would give him the warm welcome of the Senate.
Well, good morning, Daniel. We thank you for coming, and we thank you for being a part of the Senators team. As you know, we need all of the help that we can get. So thank you for keeping us on schedule. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair now recognizes Senator Ruff, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
In the gallery today, we are joined by the Richard Bland College women's volleyball team. They are the 2022 Division II National Junior College champions. Joining the team are the coaches, athletic director, president, and other staff members. I ask you to give them a warm welcome.
Well, I think you're the one game where everyone thinks that they can play it. Everybody wants to put up a net and hit the volleyball, and we know they don't know how to dig and all of that and spike, but they try. But you indeed have done it well, and so here you are, the champs. Congratulations to you. Keep it up. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Okay, Senate calendar for Thursday, February 23rd, 2023, page 12. Unfinished business, House. House Bill 1524. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Madam Chair, I move that we insist on our amendment on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference on the bill.
House Bill 1617. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Senate insists.
House Bill 1628. The House has rejected the Senate amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the senator from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we insist on our amendment and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its amendments and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Senate insists.
Unfinished business House Bill 1840. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we insist on our amendments and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 1841. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the senator from Southern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The Senate insists.
House Bill 1976. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference on the bill.
House Bill 2046. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2169. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate insist on its substitute and that we request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2208. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2272. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2345, the House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator Lucas.
Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2386, the House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2398, the House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that we insist on our substitute and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 2463, the House has rejected the Senate amendment.
Chair again recognizes Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the Senate insist on our amendment and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its amendment and request a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate insists.
House Bill 1637, the House has acceded to a request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of Commerce and Labor, Senator Saslaw, or Senator Spruill, Lewis, and Norton. House Bill 1895, the House has acceded to a request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of Commerce and Labor, Senator Saslaw, or Senator Saslaw, Deeds, and Obenshain. House Bill 1921, the House acceded to a request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of Commerce and Labor, Senator Saslaw, or Senators Mason, Lucas, and Newman. House Bill 2032, the House has acceded to a request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate, as named by the co-chairs of Judiciary, Senators Edwards and Deeds, are Senators Edwards, Boysko, and Peake. House Bill 2030.
Page 22.
Okay. So we are awaiting House action on the remaining bills. Page 22, unfinished business Senate. Senate Bill 820 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that we reject the substitute, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, with the recommendation that it be yes, that's right. And speaking to the bill.
Madam President, I would like to speak to the bill, or the motion. What happened is the House put their bill on mine, and their bill actually turns my bill into a study. DCJS, in coordination with the Virginia Sheriff's Association, would be charged with looking at how jails are currently operating their substance use disorder programs. The fact is that we have a lot of data in that area. We know how they're operating, and we much prefer the Senate version.
The question is, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? With the recommendation that it be rejected, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 40.
Ayes 0, noes 40. The Senate does not concur.
Senate Bill 839 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we concur with the House substitute. And speaking to that,
the senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the bill that adds to the powers and duties of the Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development. And what the substitute does is it streamlined the reporting requirements for local governments with regard to the collection of zoning information upon the request from the department. So, I move that we concur with the House substitute.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1003 has passed the House with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator DeStaff, the senior senator from Virginia Beach.
Good afternoon, Madam President. I would like to concur with the House amendment in speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
So, Madam President, what this does is this was sent down from the SEC with technical and clarifying language on where the funds cannot be used from. It's specifically technical, does not impact the bill one way or the other. With that, I move acceptance or concurrence with the House amendments and passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment on Senate Bill 1003? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1005 reported as passed the House with an amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accept the House amendment. And speaking to that motion,
the senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This amendment simply extends direct access to physical therapy for children starting from birth to age 3 who require services to fulfill the provisions of their individualized services plan under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So this puts us in compliance. And with that, I ask that we accept the amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1043 has passed the House with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation the House amendments be rejected, I move we concur with the House amendments and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As you can see in the calendar, a reenactment clause has been added to this bill. And so we've got a little work and convincing to do down in the other chamber. And again, I move that we concur with the House amendments with the recommendation it be rejected. Thank you.
The question is, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? With the recommendation that it be rejected, have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 40.
Ayes 0, noes 40. The Senate rejects the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1046 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we concur with the House substitute. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So the House accepted a substitute I presented to them. It does two things. It actually adds reenactment intentionally and then creates a study work group, Madam President, to make sure we've got our police chief, fire, DCGS, and others in the room to work out the intricacies involved in adding fire marshals to 9.1 of the code. And so there are some other areas that need to be explored with this work group, and it's important they sit down and work it out in the off season. So it does have reenactment, and I move we concur.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 1075 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Ruff, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Madam President, maybe we pass that bill by temporarily.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1075 goes by temporarily.
Senate Bill 1166 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Surville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that we reject it, I move that we concur with the House. We substitute and keep with the good version we passed.
And explanation, sir?
Madam President, the House bill basically deletes staffing for the CUR, which is kind of the key to the whole thing, is to make sure it has some actual staff. And we have staff in our budget, and we want staff. So we need to reject this substitute.
So that we can have staff.
Yeah.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute with the recommendation that it be rejected? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote with their recommendation that it be rejected? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 5, noes 35.
Ayes 5, noes 35. The Senate does not concur with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1217 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Mason, the senator from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, with the recommendation that it be rejected, I move that we concur with the House substitute. Speaking of the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, we just put the House version of this bill into conference a moment ago. One's a study, one's a real bill. We need to get together and talk about which way it goes. And so, once again, Madam President, with the recommendation that be rejected, I move that we concur with the House substitute.
The question is, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted with the recommendation that it be rejected? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The Senate rejects the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1222 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair again recognizes Senator Mason.
Madam President, I move that we concur with the House substitute. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this is the bill that we worked on behalf of the realtors. Over the years, we had the Condominium Act, the Real Estate Cooperative Act, and the Property Owners Association Act. So we had rules and regulations all over the code. This was our effort to put it all in one place, clean up the real estate disclosure. So we called it the Resale Disclosure Act. We continued to work on it, cleaning it up across the way, made some amendments, missed one even with amendments. That's why it's a substitute and not just amendment adjustment. So once again, Madam President, I move that we accept the substitute.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1396 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the senator from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we adopt, concur with the House substitute and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This was the retail or organized retail crime bill. The gentleman from Eastern Fairfax put an amendment in courts on the delegates bill raising the threshold from 1,000 to 5,000. The House actually accepted that and agreed with it. They put the same amendment on this bill in a good faith compromise, and I think it's okay to go to $5,000 threshold. So with that, I'd move we accept the concur with the House amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Somerville.
Will the gentleman from King George yield for a question?
Will the gentleman from King George rise and yield?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Somerville has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's a little bit of a surprise. I haven't had a chance to look at it carefully yet, but I know one of the things that we were apart on was the other side wanted a third offense, petty larceny felony. I'm not seeing that in here. Is that right? It's out?
Senator Stewart has the floor.
Madam President, it is the bill, my bill, as it passed the Senate without that provision. All they did was change the threshold from 1,000 to 5,000 for the aggregate of theft within 90 days, which triggers the felony. That is the only change.
Senator Somerville.
Madam President, the gentleman yield for one more question.
Will Senator Stewart yield for another question?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Somerville has the floor.
So basically, Madam President, the bill adopts the Senate position on the Byron bill that went out of here a couple days ago, yesterday, the day before. Is that fair?
Senator Stewart has the floor.
Madam President, it is identical.
Got it. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman from King George yield for a question?
Will the senator from King George yield?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
I would preface my question with the following. I believe it was a senator from Eastern Fairfax County that gave the example you could have one iPhone worth $1,200 and get over the threshold. And I understand now that it's been moved from 1,000 to 5,000. But is it not true that if you still have an individual who is an addict or somebody that is commits multiple misdemeanors, that you can aggregate them, and even though the aggregate amount is now 5,000, they would still be guilty of this felony? Is that correct?
Senator Stewart has the floor.
Madam President, only if they are acting in concert with someone else, yes, which is the definition. That's what this bill is about. This is organized crime, stealing from retail establishments, and these are folks acting in concert. It is not about an individual who may have a drug problem and steals to support that drug problem. So no, unless they're acting in unless they're acting in concert.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Senator Stewart, will you yield for another question?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
It's my understanding that not only can you aggregate these offenses, but you can be aggregated over various counties and cities, so that instead of an individual committing a petty larceny in Henrico and one in Richmond and one in Essex County, where they would have to be tried in those three counties individually, now you can lump all of these together, even though they occurred in different jurisdictions, and try them for one aggregate offense. Is that correct?
Senator Stewart has the floor.
Practically, Madam President, I'm trying to think how you would actually do that when you've got different jurisdictions. I suppose there is a way to go with the multi-jurisdictional grand jury, and I think it'd be very difficult. Won't say that it couldn't happen, but I think it would be very difficult to do what the gentleman suggests.
The gentleman yield for another question.
Will the gentleman yield again? Yield. Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
I'm looking for that language right now in the statute, but I believe the language clearly says not only is it an aggregate amount, but you can add the jurisdictions together and try them all in one jurisdiction. Can you push this up? Is that not correct?
Senator Stewart.
Madam President, as I said, I believe you could. I think practically it would be very difficult to do.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman yield for another question? Gentleman yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Where else in the criminal code, if somebody commits, for example, a larceny in Fairfax County and a larceny in Loudoun and a larceny in Tappahannock, where else can you put them all together and try them in one jurisdiction as opposed to trying them separately in the jurisdiction or the venue where the offense occurred?
Senator Stewart.
Madam President, I believe they've done that with drug cases for a long time through a multi-jurisdictional grand jury. Again, practically it's difficult, but it can be done.
All right. I thank the gentleman.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 8.
Ayes 32, noes 8. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 1427 has passed the House with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the senator from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This legislation is our PAC contribution transparency reform that does a few different things. And while it was over in the House, the House of Delegates saw an opportunity to amend some code section that they would like to amend anyways. And that is related to when new PACs have to start filing reports. Instead of doing it at each 500, they'd like to do it at each 1,000, which is similar to the way we have on the late activity reports for both our campaigns and also for this. So it's not the most consequential thing. I didn't bring a bill to do this, but I don't mind that. And then the second amendment that they have in here is also to clarify that because these are dealing with state PACs, the additional reporting for late activities are dealing with our election years, so it only will add an additional reporting requirements and series of reporting requirements in odd-numbered years. So with that, Madam President, I hope it'll be the pleasure of the body to concur with these amendments so we can send it to the governor.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 1470 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Ruff, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill we concur with the House substitute. The
senator has the floor.
Thank you. This is the same bill as we passed earlier this week that deals with workforce, and we're now in a total agreement.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs.
House Bill 1482 has passed the House with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Soroville, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation we rejected, I move that we concur with the House amendment. And speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is the bill that sort of creates the fourth SCC seat and then deletes one, so that we end up with three seats, still with 3 seats, but one has a 5-year term, one has a 6-year term. And we threw a reenactment on here so that in the event we're able to agree on 2 people to elect to the State Corporation Commission, we'll be able to report the bill at a conference at that time. But we don't want to change the law if we're not able to reach an agreement. So that's why the reenactment clause is on there. But so this needs to go into conference. So I would ask again that you reject the House sub.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? With the recommendation that it be rejected, does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
0, noes 40.
Ayes 0, noes 40. The Senate rejects the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1514 has passed the House with an amendment.
Chair recognizes again Senator Mason.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, excuse me, ma'am. I move we accept the House amendment. Speaking of that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this is the Senate registrar bill that's trailing along behind the House one that we already approved. This gives them the chance to appeal if they've been fired to a circuit court and provides them counsel. We just changed the word that it's in the area that they serve, not that they reside. I ask that we approve the bill. Thank you, ma'am.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 1525 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Rouse, the junior senator from Virginia Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we concur with the House substitute. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
This is the wholesome food tax credit. Again, we passed this bill earlier this week. It was in conference, House Bill 2445. This bill was brought by Princess Anne High School students to stop food waste and to incentivize wholesome food donations by farmers to food banks as well. I move that we accept the House substitute.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs.
Senate Bill 899 the House insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes again Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we accede to the request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 899? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate accedes and requests a committee conference on the bill.
Conferees on the part of the Senate from the chair on the Committee on Agriculture and Conservation and Natural Resources, Senator Peterson, or Senators Peterson, Lewis, and Stewart. Senate Bill 1002. The House has insisted on its substitute and request a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Cosgrove, the senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accede to the request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate accedes to the request.
Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of General Laws and Technology, Senator Eben, or Senators Cosgrove, Mason, and Bell. Senate Bill 1198. The House insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes again Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, excuse me, I would move that we accede to their request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on the bill? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate accedes to the request for a committee of conference.
Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of Education and Health, Senator Lucas, or Senators Saslaw, Locke, and Donovan. Senate Bill 1271. The House insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the senator from northwestern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that we accede to the request for the committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chair of Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, Senator Peterson, or Senators Boysko, McClellan, and Stanley. Returning to page 24. Senate Bill 1075.
Chair recognizes Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate concur with the House substitute in speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
This is the bill that deals with APCO only, and as I described it yesterday, the original bill would have changed tri-annual SCC rate reviews to annual. This settled on a biannual. At the same time, it strengthens the SCC rate-setting powers. It has the support of both the business and the environmental community. I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the senator from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to concur with the motion and speak to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I think this is a really good example of a bill where the parties came together and stripped out a lot of the things that some of us on the consumer advocacy side did not like, kept in the environmental protections, and keeps the SCC with jurisdiction over the over the bill. So I would ask that we support this bill, support this substitute. Thanks.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The Senate concurs.
On page 16, we have a change in conferees on House Bill 1637. Is named by the Chair of Commerce and Labor, Senator Saslaw, Senator Surville, Mason, and Vogel. We are awaiting House action on the remaining bills in this section. Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 1606. A bill relating to anti-Semitism, adoption of non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism as a tool and guide. Reported from the Committee on Rules, and there are 2 floor amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Madam President,
For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
I think I have the floor amendment that's up first. I think I go first.
Senator Sarraville has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, first of all, I would withdraw the first amendment on my amendment.
Without objection, that first amendment to his amendment is withdrawn. Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a parliamentary inquiry with regard to Amendment Number 2. And that would be, can we sever Enactment Clause 2 and Enactment Clause 3 in the vote, or do we have to vote them together?
From what I understand, Senator, they are not severable.
Okay.
So
I'd move the waive reading of the floor amendment.
the question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. I'm sorry, this is a voice vote. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move then the second amendment on this page and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is two additional enactment clauses to this Section 1 bill. The first one just makes clear that there's nothing contained in this Section 1 bill that will diminish or infringe on any rights protected by the Constitution, which is really just a restatement of the law. And the Second Amendment, Enactment Clause number 3, that basically just directs that this bill will not be codified, put in the code. And I'll tell you the reason that's important is because sometimes we pass Section 1 bills and they put them in the code anyway. It's actually happened to me. I've passed bills as Section 1 bills, and then now they're in the Code of Virginia, even though we didn't tell them to put it in the Code of Virginia. And we just want to make sure that this isn't going to become part of the Code of Virginia. That's basically what the two do. And I'm pretty sure there's peace in the valley on those two.
Would the gentleman yield for a question, Madam?
I'll yield.
The senator must note that the gentleman is not to be interrupted until he is finished speaking. Is the gentleman finished speaking?
I'm done. I'll yield.
Senator Morrissey.
Thank you. Parliamentary inquiry is, are we considering amendments number 2 and 3 together, or have you we are? And we are on amendment number 2 right now.
Madam President.
Senator Surville has the floor.
Based on the ruling or the response in the parliamentary inquiry from the President, it's my understanding that we're voting on Enactment Clause 2 and Enactment Clause 3 together at the same time. And I believe that Senator Donovan's amendment would only be, if we get to that, is only Enactment Clause number 2 of mine. So if we reject mine, then we get to hers. If we adopt mine, then hers is out of order. I think,
gentlemen.
The question is,
Madam President, may I speak to that motion?
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I am going to ask this body to reject Senator Surville's amendments and instead adopt the ones that I have proposed on the floor. And, I want to walk through that for a minute. And just to be clear, first waive the reading of the amendment, the floor amendment.
We have this motion already. You're speaking to it.
You're correct. Thank you. The amendment that I would prefer for us to vote on would include the same language that protects freedom of speech and the First Amendment, and it does not include number 3. And let's talk about that for a minute. I want to say that this has been a wonderful opportunity for me to work with the Jewish community to really advance this bill and this idea. And one of the reasons I so embrace it is because we talk a lot about hate crimes. We talk about where we're going wrong in society. We have very few constructive measures by which we can de-escalate and make sure those things never happen. And that's why I'm so impressed with this IRA definition, because it helps us accomplish that. Since December, the leaders of the Jewish community from all over the Commonwealth have worked in good faith to be sure this would be a bipartisan bill. They've worked across the aisle. They've listened to concerns. They've made many amendments. They listened and understood and agreed to the amendments by Delegate Marcus Simon, moved this to a Section 1 bill, as we've already discussed. This bill, in that form, passed unanimously out of our own Rules Committee. Madam Chairman, Madam President, and members of the body, this language that you see in number 3 has never been put in the code before. It seems that we're going a bit far when it comes to a conversation about anti-Semitism. I think that we have consensus and agreement on number 2 that was reached yesterday, as again the community listened, and agreed to the amendment that is before you as listed number 2. Madam President, I think it's time that we show good faith and that we go forward and reject Senator Sorovel's amendment and move on to mine and get this bill through, because it's a really important bill on how we go forward to de-escalate hate in Virginia.
The question is,
Madam President.
Chair again recognizes Senator Sorovel.
Thank you, Madam President. Just for some clarification, the reason that this language has never been in
The
the
senator has the floor.
Sorry, speaking to the amendment. The reason that this shall not be codified has never been in the code because it wouldn't be in the code if you say it shall not be codified. So that's why it's not in there. And I would just note that I just did a search on LIS, and the words shall not be codified, at least since 1994, has appeared over 30 times in enactments or bills that have been proposed at some point. And I haven't had a chance to click through them all to see if they've passed. But I don't think this enactment clause number 3 is anything unusual at all. So I would just say to the body that enactment clause number 3 just makes clear that we don't want this showing up in the black books that live on the shelves every day. And if this is truly, if the intent is to truly have a Section 1 bill that doesn't go in the books, this just really knocks that home so the Code Commission doesn't go stick it in the code, which they do sometimes. And I think we need to make that clear.
Chair recognizes again Senator McDougall, senator from Hanover.
Madam Chairman, would the gentleman yield for question?
Will the senator rise and yield for a question? Senator Sorovel yields. Senator McDougall has the floor.
Madam President, the gentleman is much faster on his Google searches than I am, but can you say of those 30-some times, did any of those bills pass?
Senator Sorovel has the floor.
6 of them passed.
So, Madam President, would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman yield for another question?
I'll yield.
Senator Sorovel yields. Senator McDougall has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I believe the gentleman indicated that it would be the Code Commission that would make the decision about whether a Section 1 bill actually is listed out. Can the gentleman tell me how many Republican senators are on the Code Commission?
Senator Sorovel has the floor.
Madam President, I'm only speculating that the Code Commission makes that decision. When this happened to me before, I asked how'd this happen, and they said somebody made it. I don't know whether it was, the keeper of the rolls on the other side of the building we don't get to control, or whether it was the Code Commission. I could have sworn they told me it was the Code Commission, but there's some mysterious person out there that sometimes decides to put things in the code even we don't tell them to, and that's who I'm worried about.
Chair recognizes Senator Obenshain, the senator from Rockingham.
Madam President, speaking to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
I can tell you that it is the Code Commission that makes that determination. There are no Republican senators on the Code Commission. I think that the 2 representatives are from the other side, and hopefully they will do my friend's bidding on the other side. The way that Section 1 bills are cited is as an uncodified act. I mean, that's how we cite them. And I'm not sure what everybody is so afraid of. If, we are going to pass this, it's going to go in, the Google machine. It is the law of Virginia. And it just seems like people are too obsessed about whether somebody might see it. Well, you know what? We're speaking for the Commonwealth of Virginia here. And, we just need to pass this and stop escalating, the barriers to passage of this bill that is supposed to bring Virginians together. So I would hope that we would reject this floor amendment and get to a floor amendment that I think is more reasonable, that says, it's out there for everybody to see.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman from Rockingham yield for a question?
Will the gentleman from Rockingham rise and yield? Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
I would preface my question with this. The gentleman has made a very strong and compelling argument that this is the law, irrespective of whether it's codified or not. But my question is for the benefit of some people in this chamber, maybe some new members, people that are listening on. Many people think and still go to the book, open the book to see the law. Some people that are old school. Would that not be a reason to codify it? And if that is a reason to codify it, isn't that a reason to codify it?
Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Madam President, what I would say is I'd be happy to codify it, but that's not the bill before us. The bill before us is the result of negotiations which backed away from a codified act. And it just seems like every time we get close to a consensus and passage, somebody just throws another barrier in the way. And yeah, I would be happy with codifying it, but that's not what we're looking at.
Would the gentleman yield for a final question?
Will the senator yield for a final question?
Sure.
Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
I would preface my question by saying I am also in favor of the legislation and support the legislation for many, many different reasons. But before we can get to that legislation, we have to get to the senator from Eastern Fairfax Second Amendment that adds two provisions to it. That seems to be the hang-up in the body right now, and I think there needs to be some direction on how we get through those two enactment clauses before we get so that we can either vote the legislation up or down.
Madam President.
Isn't that true, Madam?
Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Thank you. What I would suggest is that we need to, I would urge the members to reject the senator from Eastern Fairfax's two amendments, or amendment number 2, which we're about to vote on, so that we can get to Senator Donovan's floor amendment, which is the result of negotiations over the course of the past few days, which simply deals with the constitutional issue.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank you.
Senator Donovan, the senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Amendment. I want to make a couple of points here. I called LIS and asked LIS if this had been put in Section 1 code before we had this discussion, and I was told no. Now, a Google search has revealed a different answer, but see, that's the problem with last-minute amendments that haven't been vetted or discussed. And that's why one of the many reasons I think we should reject Senator Saravel's arguments and move on to my floor amendment. But I will also say, if you have a problem with the Code Commission codifying things that are in Section 1 and intended to be there, that's another bill, Madam President. Go fix that problem with the Code Commission. Furthermore, when you imply that there is an intent other than having this in Section 1, and therefore it needs an additional security measure by this additional amendment, it is an implication that you don't actually believe that the advocates want to move forward as they have so graciously and so consistently agreed to do in this process.
The senator will address Madam President.
Thank you, Madam President. Those are my points. I think that if you have a problem with the Code Commission, go fix that. You do not need to put this language, which demeans the process and the dignity of the process, on this bill. I hope the members will vote against, the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the Saravel floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no? No. The chair is uncertain. This will be a recorded vote. The question is, shall the floor amendments, Saravel floor amendments, be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 20.
Chair rules no. The Saravel amendments are not agreed to.
Madam President, I move that we agree.
Chair recognizes Senator Donovan, the senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Having previously explained the floor amendment, I move that we accept it.
We have to waive the reading.
Please waive the reading.
We are now taking up the Donovan amendment.
Having previously discussed, I move that we accept the floor amendment.
We have to waive the reading of it. Is that what you'd like to do, waive the reading?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, Madam President.
The question is, shall the reading of the Donovan floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment reading of it is waived. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we agree to the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the floor amendment, the Donovan floor amendment, be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move passage of House Bill 1606.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As we all know, this is a Section 1 bill that will actually give us guidance on education and the opportunity to de-escalate biases. We have seen an unprecedented increase in anti-Semitic hate crimes and aggression, even in our own state, very importantly in our own state. And, Madam President, other than law to prosecute on hate crime, we have very poor tools to de-escalate the biases that result in those aggressions because we don't have a framework. And now this Section 1 bill will provide us that opportunity to actually work together collaboratively to de-escalate bias and hopefully actually get at the heart of making sure hate crimes stop. Thank you, Madam President. I move we pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, no 0.
Ayes 32, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1757, a bill relating to immunity of persons towards actions, assertion of immunity, attorney fees, and cost, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with an amendment. And there is a floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the senator from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to withdraw the floor substitute.
The Peterson substitute?
The Peterson substitute can be withdrawn.
Without objection, the Peterson substitute is withdrawn.
And then, Madam President, I would move that we adopt the committee amendment to House Bill 1757. It's already been adopted.
It's already been adopted, sir.
And then I would make one final motion that this bill go by temporarily.
Without objection, House Bill 1757 goes by temporarily.
On third reading, House Bill 1777, a bill relating to Phase 1 utilities annual rate true-up reviews. Reported for the Committee on Commerce and Labor, and there is a floor sub.
Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw.
Madam President.
It's Senator Ruff.
Chair recognizes Senator Ruff, the senator from Mecklenburg.
Thank you. I move the waiving of the reading of the substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The floor substitute reading of it is waived. Senator Ruff.
Madam President, I move that the floor substitute be agreed to. And speaking to that motion,
the senator has the floor.
Madam President, this is a substitute offered yesterday dealing with EPCO. The substitute is the same as we just passed a few minutes ago, and I would ask that the substitute be adopted.
The Question is, shall the floor substitute be adopted? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor substitute is adopted. Senator Ruff.
Madam President, I move the bill pass.
The question is, Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the senator from Fairfax City.
Madam President, move to speak in favor of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just very briefly, this is basically the House equivalent of what we just passed in the Senate, and hopefully we'll all get green lights on this. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
House Bill 2129, a bill relating to child victims and witnesses using two-way closed-circuit television, expands age range. The committee substitute and amendment have been adopted by the Senate.
Chair recognizes Senator Beeds, the senator from Charlottesville.
Madam President, the record will reflect that I voted against this bill in both Judiciary and Finance. Nonetheless, I will move its passage.
Would you like to explain the bill, sir?
This bill allows, in certain criminal cases, children under the age of 14 can testify through closed-circuit testimony. With the amendment we've adopted, this bill would extend that courtesy or that ability to children under the age of 16 when the court decides it's appropriate. It does change the standard, yes.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I would hope everybody in the body would pause for a moment and realize what we're doing here. I understand that the chairman of the Judiciary, as I understand it, moved for passage but doesn't support the bill, and there's a reason that many of us do not. It guts the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guarantees the right of confrontation. It guts it. And it says that if you're 16 years old and you are a victim of sexual assault, and the argument in the committee was that it's too traumatizing for the person to have to face the accuser. Therefore, let them do it on closed-circuit TV and deny the defendant the right of confrontation. Well, I would say there's lots of things that are traumatizing in court. An individual, a child who saw her parent murdered. That's traumatizing. It'd be in a home invasion where a gun was put to the head of a family member. That's traumatizing. The sister whose brother was sold fentanyl and died in front of her and now has to confront the drug distributor in court, that's traumatizing. But because it's simply traumatizing doesn't mean we're going to gut the Sixth Amendment. I see so frequently my folks on the other side of the aisle talk about other amendments, that, like the second, that we should not abridge. Here's the problem with this bill. It now says that if you're 16 years old and you're the victim of a sexual assault, you can testify in closed circuit. The defendant does not have the right to confront you. Excuse me, Madam President. Madam President, I understand that the gentleman from James City is asking me to yield because he has a motion to make, and I will yield.
Madam President, I thank the junior senator from Richmond, and I apologize for interrupting his colloquy, and I should have given him the heads up on it. I'm going to respectfully ask that we pass this bill by temporarily.
Without objection, House Bill 2129 goes by temporarily.
House Bill 1842, a bill relating to Virginia Business Ready Sites Acquisition Fund and Program created. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the senator from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. With a request that we reject the substitute of from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, I move that substitute be adopted.
The question is, with the recommendation that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be adopted, shall the Senate reject the substitute? All in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I waive the reading of the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senator Barker.
Yes, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Yes. This bill deals with the business-ready sites and the creation of a fund for that. And there are, within this substitute, we've addressed several issues. They provide protection against conflicts of interest in the development of the sites and must get approval of the governor under existing code that is there, would have the Virginia Economic Development Partnership will consult with the Department of General Services and the Office of the Attorney General to establish criteria so that we can make sure that this is done in a proper way, and also that would provide for grant a right of first refusal to the cities or counties that would be impacted by this. And that, in addition, it would be subject to review by the MEI initiative that we have in law already. With those, I think that we have covered the ground and set this up in a proper way, and I renew my motion for adoption of the floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Cosgrove, the senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. To speak to the substitute.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you'll act favorably on this substitute. I think Senator Barker's put a lot of work into this. We have a potential site in my district of over 4,000 acres of non-wetland developable mega site ready land. And this will go a long way in helping us find the right tenant for that land and bring a lot of money into this Commonwealth. So I thank the senator for his actions.
Chair recognizes Senator Normand, the senator from James City County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking on House Bill 1842.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I think sometimes when we are rapidly moving through the calendars with legislation that afterwards we have a reflection and an epiphany. And I think that this is a bill where we've had a legislative epiphany. And I realize that there are varying perspectives on it, but I would say this does not mandate or require that the state buy it. It is just a permissive option that exists, and I would encourage the body to support House Bill 1842.
The question is, shall the floor substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor substitute is agreed to. Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. Having been explained with the floor substitute, I move passage of the bill at this time.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
Hold on.
For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax County rise?
On the prevailing side by which somebody missed a vote, I would move reconsider the vote by which it passed.
The question is, shall the vote by which it passed on House Bill 1842, the substitute, shall that vote be reconsidered? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. The senator from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Madam Chair, I'm hoping that I can go back to the morning hour in a second.
Okay, we're after this. Thank you. Senator Barker.
Madam President, having been explained previously, I move passage of the bill.
The question is, again, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 2161.
Madam President?
We're going to get through the calendar and then we'll come back.
House Bill 2161, a bill relating to local government standardization of public notice requirements for certain intended actions, reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute, and there is the committee substitute has been adopted, and then there's a floor substitute. Amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Donovan, the senator from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a one-word amendment to this bill that allows this bill speaks to notices that need to be given before things are considered in local government meetings, and some of the localities, including mine, meet so frequently that without having this amendment, which is agreed to by all of the advocates, there was consensus in the Valley, it would have protracted how long they needed to wait to entertain certain motions at the meetings because of the window of advance notice that needed to be given if they indeed did not actually hear that subject. So long-winded, peace in the Valley. It just allows a way to make sure that public notice is given, but it does not obstruct the process of local government actually accomplishing their goals.
Your motion, Senator?
That the bill pass, the floor amendment be accepted.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the senator from Roanoke City.
Madam President, let me say a few words.
The senator has the floor.
This is a Code Commission bill. It's a product of a work group. It went on for a number of months, and the work group will be continuing in May. And my companion bill, without the floor amendment, has already passed the Senate and the House and is on its way to the governor's office. What this will do, Madam President, it adds the word intended. Let me read the language. With the first notice appearing no more than 14 days prior to the new language intended passage of the ordinance of the local government. In a way, it's almost implied. Intended passage is almost implied in the language. And I've checked with the Code Commission and the Legislative Services, and this is not inconsistent with my bill, with the word intended, and therefore would probably be in the code if this passes, which is fine. And I've checked also with VACO and VML, and they don't really have any problems with this amendment. But I want people to understand this work group will continue on, and I don't have any real objections to this particular floor amendment, and I recommend that we go ahead and pass it.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is adopted. Senator Lewis.
Move the bill pass, Madam President.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, having been already overly explained, I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 2331, a bill relating to animal care, seizure of animals, zoos.
Chair.
Madam Chair. Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Hager, the senator from Augusta.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of a motion, maybe a comment or two.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Yesterday, I think we had adequate conversation about zoos and the importance of zoos in order to educate and sustain wild animals that many of our population are not able to visit in their native habitat.
Your motion, sir?
This is a preamble to my motion.
The senator may continue with the Constitution.
And Madam President, I am, we talk about lions and tigers and bears. We sometimes say, oh my, but today I would say lions and tigers and bears and elephants, oh yes. And with that, and to a nod to expediting the calendar, and actually knowing what day it is today, Madam President, I would move that the bill be passed by for the day.
The senator is aware that it is. Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the senator from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm speaking to his preamble, Madam President.
The senator has the floor.
Not to his motion. This came up yesterday, and I spoke on the Senate floor briefly because there was an instance in my district that was invoked as we debated this on the floor. And I think I might be strong to say I owe them an apology. But I did reference that there was a degree of chaos around the events that surrounded the investigation and the removal of animals from a zoo in my district, my community. And I, in response to that, got some emails, and I just want to be 100% sure that I say that from the standpoint of law enforcement, whom I love and adore, and who I'm very close to in my district, in particular my sheriff, Lenny Milholland, who, as I depart this body, I want to go out in a blaze of glory and not fire. I want to say that they did an amazing job, at least on his part, and to the extent that there was any chaos and confusion and that I was getting calls in my office sitting over in the General Assembly building, it wasn't for any failure on their part, because as I have spoken to one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle this morning who visited me early to talk through this process, they took it very seriously, and others may speak to this, but it was well done. So I want to make sure that I correct the record on that, and also say that I still stand on the side of due process. I stand by that piece, but I did want to make sure I corrected the record on the chaos there. Thank you, Madam President. And now we'll return to his preamble. And with that, I will not speak again and wish you all a great day.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Would the gentlelady from Fauquier County yield for a question?
Will the senator from Fauquier County yield? Rise and yield for a question.
Madam President, I said I wasn't going to speak again, but I would be delighted to yield to the question.
The senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Just to be clear to all of the people out in information land, you love your law enforcement and you love due process. Is that the takeaway?
That is
Senator.
The takeaway. Madam President, he is such a good listener. Gosh. And when I think that literally no one ever listens to a word I say, I realize that's only in my own house. Thank you. Yes, Madam President, that is absolutely true.
I thank the lady.
And I did not want to take anything away from that investigation. And thank you, Madam President, for allowing me to clarify.
The question is, without objection, House Bill 2331 goes by for the day.
Memorial resolutions.
Madam President.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Fairfax City rise?
Could I call back up House Bill 1757 on page 35 of the calendar? It had gone by temporarily.
Without objection, House Bill 1757 goes by temporarily?
No, it had gone by. I'm calling it back up.
Oh, you want to take it up?
Yes.
It's up.
All right, thank you. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, this is with the amendment, we put a reenactment clause. This has to do with the civil immunity statute, and I had a companion bill to the same code section, which has now passed the House. And so by passing this, we can put these two bills in conference and update this statute, which I think will be good for the citizens of the Commonwealth. So please go ahead and pass this bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Madam President.
We're turning to...
We're still on the calendar. I'll call on you. Madam Clerk.
House Bill 2129.
Page 36.
He's right there.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds. Senator Edwards. A senator.
Madam President, I'd respectfully ask that bill to be passed by temporarily for purposes at the appropriate time, having a brief recess and a caucus meeting, please.
Without objection, House Bill 2129 again goes by temporarily.
Memorial resolutions.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the, excuse me, I had the wrong page. I move that the memorial resolution on pages 37 through 41, HJR 722 through SR 159, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolution thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on pages 37 through 41, House Joint Resolution 722 through Senate Resolution 150,
Be considered.
in the block, in the usual manner, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution, as well as waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof. Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 722, celebrating the life of the Honorable William Kyle Barlow.
Madam President.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Richmond, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. Could House Joint Resolution 722 come out of the block and by for the day for the purpose of additional signatures?
Without objection, House Joint Resolution 722 is out of the block and by for the day.
House Joint Resolution 758, celebrating the life of Elizabeth Lewis Crutchfield. House Joint Resolution 772, celebrating the life of Ella Lee Fountain Flowers. House Joint Resolution 775, celebrating the life of Mary Elaine McNichols. House Joint Resolution 779, celebrating the life of Charles Taliaferro Lindsay, Jr. House Joint Resolution 785, celebrating the life of Charles Somerville Harris. House Joint Resolution 787, celebrating the life of Charles Kirkland. House Joint Resolution 788, celebrating the life of Jaylyn A. Irahana Santafil. House Joint Resolution 789, celebrating the life of Jane Frances Gorley Karsten. House Joint Resolution 793, celebrating the life of Thomas Ellis Welch, Jr. House Joint Resolution 794, celebrating the life of Roger Dale Bowles. House Joint Resolution 795, celebrating the life of Ron Keith Atkins. House Joint Resolution 797, celebrating the life of David Carlton Witt. House Joint Resolution 802, celebrating the life of George Thomas Savage, Jr. House Joint Resolution 803, celebrating the life of Cecil Gordon Lehman, Jr. House Joint Resolution 804, celebrating the life of Eugene N. Hodnett. House Joint Resolution 807, celebrating the life of James Lawrence Eason. House Joint Resolution 808, celebrating the life of the Honorable Albert Charles Eisenberg.
Madam President,
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the senator from Alexandria.
could HJR 808 come out of the block?
Without objection, HJR 808 is out of the block.
Madam President,
For what purpose does the senator from Richmond City rise?
could HJ 808 also go by for the day for additional signatures?
Without objection, HJ 808 is out of the block and by for the day.
House Joint Resolution 809, celebrating the life of Robert Earl Bryant. House Joint Resolution 815, celebrating the life of Nicholas D. Street. House Joint Resolution 817, celebrating the life of Carla Jonah Holland. House Joint Resolution 821, celebrating the life of Theodore Nathan Lerner. House Joint Resolution 823, celebrating the life of Ethel Ann Grandy. House Joint Resolution 825, celebrating the life of Barbara Curtis Stein Robinson. House Joint Resolution 827, celebrating the life of Edward Leroy Beard. House Joint Resolution 837, celebrating the life of Christopher Sean Wiggins. Senate Joint Resolution 411, celebrating the life of Deshaun Emer Peary. Senate Joint Resolution 412, celebrating the life of Lavelle Tyler Davis, Jr. Senate Joint Resolution 413, celebrating the life of Devin Keith Chandler. Senate Joint Resolution 421, celebrating the life of Catherine Cummings Reynolds.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator McDougal, the senator from Hanover.
Could SJR come out of the block and go by for the day?
SJ 421.
Yes, Madam President.
Without objection, SJR 421 is out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Resolution 159, celebrating the life of James Kokolas.
Chair recognizes Senator Norman, the senator from James City County.
Thank you, Madam President. I would respectfully ask that Senate Resolution 159 come out of the block and by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Resolution 159 is out of the block and by for the day.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Could HJR 827 on page 40 come out of the block and by for the day for additional signatures?
Without objection, House Joint Resolution 827 is out of the block and by for the day. Now then, accepting House Joint Resolution 808 on page 39, Senate Joint Resolution 421, and Senate Joint Resolution 159 on page 41, both, and House Joint Resolution 827 on page 40. The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions, please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions.
Chair calls on Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the commending resolutions on pages 41 through 49, that's HJR 655 through SR, looks like 106, be considered by block voice, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. And that was, by the way, 166.
The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 41 through 49, House Joint Resolution 655 through Senate Resolution 166 be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All those in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the numbers of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 655, 657, 665, 680, 757, 759, 760, 761, 762, 763, 764, 765, 766, 767, 768, 769, House Joint Resolutions 770, 771, 773, 774, 776, 777, 778, 780, 781, 782, 783, 784, 786, 790, 791, 792, 796, 799, 800, 801, 805, 806, 810, 811, 812, 813, 814, 816, 818, 819, 820, 822, 824, 826, 828, 829, 830, 831, 832, 833, 834, 835, 836, 838, 839, 840, 841, 842, 843, 844, Senate Joint Resolution 407, Senate Resolution 160. Senate Resolution 165. 166.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the senator from northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you. I'd like to ask to take a few of these out and by for the day. That would be HJR 782.
What page?
On page 44. HJR 830 on page 47. And SR 166 for the purpose of getting co-patrons. If we could take them by for the day. Thank you.
Without objection.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Sudaline, the senator from Roanoke County.
Madam President, I'd ask that House Joint Resolution 655 and House Joint Resolution 657, both on page 41, come out of the block and by for the day so that the paperwork can be processed. Thank you.
Without objection. Accepting House Joint Resolution 827. Wait, I'm sorry. House Joint Resolution 782, page 44. House Joint Resolution 830 on page 47. Senate Joint Resolution 166 on page 49. And Senate Joint Resolution 655 and 657 on page 41, which are out of the block and by for the day. The question is, shall the remaining resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolutions are agreed to. Chair now finally recognizes Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. I request that we return to the morning hour for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We are joined by the group Leadership Loudoun, class of 2023 today, and I was so pleased to get the opportunity to meet with them earlier. They include local government employees, leaders of our nonprofit organizations, and business owners in Loudoun County. This year, their projects focus on housing equity, where they are working with people who are unhoused, and they are also doing a deep dive on racial equity, bringing in groups of people who are stakeholders to talk in a non-political and non-judgmental way so that they can work to try to find some solutions to the challenges that we face around racial disparity. It is my pleasure to have them. They have been leaders in Loudoun County for 30 years. And I'm just so pleased that they are here with us today, and I ask that you give them the warm Senate welcome.
Please stand. Well, we thank you for coming, and we thank you for observing us, and we thank you for being a participant in this leadership program. I do remember my days when I was in charge of the leadership program for the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, and it's an excellent program. Thank you for the topics that you have chosen to focus upon. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair now recognizes Senator Howell, the senator from northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to recognize that in the gallery today is a very special woman. She is the wife of my seatmate, Senator Saslaw. It's Eleanor Saslaw. She's had such a distinguished career aside from being married to him all these years. She was a school counselor. She founded the Association of School Counselors to lobby us on education issues. And more recently, she and two other retired educators have founded 401c3 to encourage and help children attend college. I hope you'll give her the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise, Mrs. Saslaw. Thank you so very much for coming, and thank you for giving your husband to us and for your activities, of course, on the Board of Education. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, members, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
You know, they say that everybody, and I mean everybody's got a use by or sell by date stamp somewhere on them. And for me, it's next January 10th at noon. By then, I will have been in the General Assembly 48 years, including 44 here in the Senate. And Madam Clerk, I can't tell you how outstanding you and your staff have been and helped make this, the enjoyable years that they've been. I've been around the General Assembly, as you can imagine, a pretty long time, and not as long as Senator Warner, who tells people thinks that I served with Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. But I did, in my first few years in the House, in my first term and second term in the House of Delegates, I did serve with a man whose father fought in the Civil War. Now, I served with a man whose father fought in the Civil War. I didn't fight in the Civil War, okay? I served also with a state senator here by the name of Evelyn Haley, who was a witness, an eyewitness to the events at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, as a sophomore at the University of Hawaii. And her father was a Navy captain there who later retired, and the maiden name was Mumskin, later retired as a vice admiral, and there's currently a destroyer named after him on active duty. Sooner or later, you got to realize that you're going to have to move on. But it's been a very interesting and a great 48 years, and you all are amongst the many people who've helped make it that way. It's met a lot of people, a lot of interesting people, both here and from the outside world. Twice I've met Queen Elizabeth, and along with then Delegate, now Congressman Morgan Griffith, we escorted her into the House of Delegates when she addressed the joint session of the General Assembly in 2007. At the 1978 inauguration of John Dalton, I had the opportunity, thanks to former Delegate Wyatt Durrett, to meet and talk for 5 or 6 minutes with, you ready for this, Elizabeth Taylor. I've attended the inauguration of 12 governors, and although the 13th that I served under, I wasn't at his inauguration. That was the second term of Mills Godwin, which gives you an idea really of how long I've been around. Many of my colleagues have gone on to be governors and congressmen, and I've tried over the years to make sure I got along with people on both sides. And, going back to the classes in the 1990s, my seatmate of many years, Janet Howe, other members of that class in the 90s, Senator Lucas, Senator Edwards, Senator Norman, Senator Newman, and Senator Hanger. So in a few years, they'll know what it's like. But it's I can't just tell you how great it's been. And I've been given a fabulous opportunity by the people here, to serve as both as minority leader and majority leader in the Senate, chaired Commerce and Labor and several subcommittees. And I'm proud of what, we've accomplished here over the last 40-some years. We've created an environment for people to succeed in. Virginia has been ranked recently as one of the top states to do business in. One of the other things I'm proud of, we've improved the life of, people and groups who've been marginalized over the years, various minorities. Things have gotten a lot better. We got a ways to go, but there's been a vast improvement. And I'm proud to say I've been, part of that. One of the things that, I've done is, I've tried to be very helpful in women's health and reproductive rights, investing in major transportation projects. And it was my bill back in 1981 that allowed local governments to start selling bonds to repair their own roads or build their own roads if they wanted to finance what was not in the state plan. And, I can't say enough to Eleanor, who's had to put up with me for all these years here, and in and out, in and out, in and out, and I couldn't have done it without your help. I really couldn't have. And then my daughter Jennifer, who I wished I could have, been at a lot more events for hers when she, as she was growing up. I also want to say a lot of thanks to my chief of staff, Janet Howe. Janet, you up there? There. Not Janet Howe. Janet Muldoon. There. You now, Janet, stand up. You now understand why I'm getting out. Call her Madam Fairfax. Had one guy on the board at UVA when he was on the board at George Mason. But anyways, and to my staffers, Joe Schilling and Megan Center. I want to, close reminding all of you the importance of listening to each other. And one of the big changes that I've seen over the years is that we've lost the ability to compromise. And that is really unfortunate. When I first got here, things got worked out. If you needed to make budget cuts, you made them. If you needed to raise taxes, you raised them. And people got returned to office. Sometimes they were tough choices, but we made them. But it's been such a great pleasure to serve with all of you and many of your predecessors. I can't thank you all enough. And again, Madam Clerk, you and that fabulous staff of yours that have made it so enjoyable to be here. Finally, with apologies to Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein II and the hundreds and hundreds of people who've played over the years in the famous Broadway musical Showboat, and stealing a couple of lines from one of their songs, in that fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly, and Saslaw's gotta move on. But thank you all.
Chair calls on Senator Normant, the senator from James City County.
Thank you, Madam President. Point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
As many of you know, I'm an avid fan of colonial American history, and I recall in 1619, one of the events we celebrated was the convening of the first legislative assembly in this hemisphere that took place in Jamestown in 1619, and I am pleased to say that Dick Saslaw was there. Madam President, it really is with enormous mixed emotions that I listened to my friend and his comments. I consider him one of the closest and fastest friends that I have in the Senate. And over the years, many of you have observed either overtly or covertly that we have worked on a lot of issues together. And I think he and I have always enjoyed a very frank and candid exchange with one another on various positions. And even though we have not always been successful, we have, in fact, worked on compromise. And I echo his comments, and I hope it will be something of a legacy that more of us will embrace as we go forward in future years. I am amused that he extended his appreciation to Eleanor, who I've known for many years, and he said that he is very thankful that he's been in and out. I suspect that Eleanor is very nervous about him being more in right now than out, but we will see how that works out. She's a lady of enormous flexibility. But I say to Senator Saslaw, I will truly miss you, and I continue to embrace your friendship.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the senator from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. Point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, I had not planned to speak, and I'm going to keep this very brief, but I had expected this moment to come, and I feel like I remember speaking at my father's funeral. I said, this is a speech you prepare for all your life, and yet the time you feel when it happens, you're unprepared. Dick Saslaw got me into this business, and I don't say this as thanks, but when I was a young man, I was out of politics. I had run statewide and lost, and I had 3 young children. I was out of money and was happy to move on to the next phase of my life. And he brought me back and gave me a second career here and led me, cajoled me to be the best man I could be. And I have often compared him to, next to my own father, he's been the most important figure in my life as a mentor, as a leader, as someone who's shown an example. And in many ways, I fought with him because I respected the hell out of him. And I knew this day was going to come, Senator, and it's an emotional day, but you have earned the plaudits as a legend in this state. And my family's been around a bit, and we have so much respect for you. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank the senator. Senator Newman, the senator from Bedford.
Madam President, point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I have spent about 28 years admiring you. When I was in the House of Delegates, I was afraid of you. I came over, and you and Senator Schewel were devastating to my bills. But, Madam President, from the day I've got here, you have embraced me. I believe that I am as conservative as you are liberal. But I think the world of you. You know, I've told my people back home who are very conservative that, and I mean it to this day, and I've said it over and over again, if Dick Saslaw called me right now and said he needed me in Northern Virginia, I would leave now and go there, and I would. I want you to know that this side of the aisle loves and respects you, I think, as much as anybody over there. You know, when you sit in budget meetings late at night, like some of us do, you really get to know people. I get to know Senator Howell and others over the years, and Senator Lucas and others, and you spend a lot of time together. And I think that committee brings us together like I would hope that the Senate generally would. But in that time, I've seen Senator Saslaw fight for my stuff I needed for back home to come back down here. And when we were in the majority, he needed some education things and otherwise, and our answer was always yes. My most interesting time on the floor, Madam President, for sure, was when I sat in Senator Deed's seat and this Senator Saslaw sat in Senator Peterson's seat, but he was never there. And I kid you not, I voted for Senator Saslaw more than Senator Saslaw did. And if his current seatmate thinks that she has to vote for him a lot, when he was young and spry and more of a spring chicken, he never sat down. And I can just tell my constituents, I have voted as liberal as I have conservative, because I would vote yes and no and yes and no. Senator Saslaw, there's simply no words to express. I, like Senator Peterson, I thought of this day a lot of times. I don't know why I have. Thought about the day that you would stand up and leave, and thought about what I could say. And here again today, I'm not prepared. But I do just want to tell you that I have the most respect for you, sir. I'm so grateful for you. I look forward to, as we talked a couple of days ago, of extending our friendship past here. And we will miss you immensely. Thank you for what you've taught this, what used to be young legislator, and the kindness that you've shown to me and to my family, sir. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator Howell, the senator from Northern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. Dick Saslaw and I met 35 years ago when we were on opposite sides of a major land use issue in Fairfax County. We battled it out and ended up friends. I hate to admit it, but I think he may have been on the right side. For the last 20 plus years, maybe 25 years, I don't know, a long time, we have been sitting next to each other either as seatmates or across the aisle. And I've observed a couple of traits that I'd like to share with you. First of all, Dick is loyal. He's loyal to a fault. If Dick considers you a friend, he will never ever publicly criticize you, put you down, or in any way show his displeasure. He will talk to you quietly and try and persuade you, but he maintains everybody's dignity all the time. He also has great integrity. And for those of us here, I think we all know how important that is. You need to know who you can trust and who you can't. And Dick is a person you can trust. If he gives you his word on a bill, it's solid. And if he has to change for some reason, he will always tell you why. That I value tremendously. He also, as we all know, has a wicked sense of humor. He'll tell you a story over and over again. But they are good stories, and we'll remember them. We're going to all miss him. I'm going to miss him. The Senate will miss him. And I know we all wish him and Eleanor a wonderful retirement. And that things just keep getting better for you. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the senator. Senator Barker, the senator from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator may say on.
Yes, I too have known Dick Saslaw for a long, long time. Doesn't go all the way back to Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson, but it seems like it sometimes. Over 40 years ago, I was coming down here to Richmond on about a 3 times a week jaunt down from Northern Virginia, coming to testify or work the halls and visit with legislators to address a lot of health care issues and some foster care and other types of things that I dealt with then. And did that for many years. And Dick was on the Education and Health Committee, and gave me a lot of advice. Sometimes it was explaining why in the world he couldn't vote for this stupid bill that I had, but was working on. But he was always, very accommodating on things, and was very good. And then in 1991, I first ran for office, and he scratched his head because he was actually supporting the opponent I had in the primary then. And so he was certain I was not going to win. But once I won the nomination, he rallied and helped me be able to put a credible campaign that was not successful in the end, but at least I had a good campaign and ran about 20 points ahead of the top of the ticket. So, we established a little situation where we were working in a positive fashion there. Now, Dick went on for, prior up until when I first got elected in 2007 in the Senate, the longest service that there had been for any senator was 40 years. And then Chuck Colgan, Dick and I helped convince Chuck Colgan to run again in 2011 for one last term. And he ended up serving 44 years. And we all thought, well, that's never going to be broken. But now we've had Senator Saslaw with 48 years, 44 in the Senate, and the remainder in the House of Delegates. And the leadership that he has shown here, the ability to work with everybody on different issues, and to work with both sides of the aisle and everything, are certainly a hallmark of your career, something that I will always remember and forget. And just to give you a little indication, Dick did one time do a little face plant when he was out on a morning run. He went to the emergency department and showed up for the Education and Health Committee meeting. His face looked like he had been, devastated greatly. And I thought of that this week when I was out for a run Monday morning, and went down up through VCU and then Arthur Ashe and over back down Monument Avenue. And it was about 7:15, 7:20 in the morning, and all of a sudden my phone goes off while in the middle of my run. I look at it and says, it's Saslaw. So, you and I had done a good bit of running together in different times, and and I certainly enjoyed working with you here in the Assembly, but everywhere. So, thank you very much for everything you've done for all of us and all of Virginia, Dick.
I thank the Senator. Senator Locke, the senator from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. There are some people who are legends in their own mind, but I can truly say that Senator Saslaw is a legend here at the General Assembly. And Eleanor, what I will not miss are the phone calls from Hawaii. Because Dick would call me practically every day. And I would say, aren't you supposed to be on vacation? But Dick has truly been a friend, a colleague, and like everyone else, I knew this day was coming. But it is not one that I can say that I wanted to hear, that because this makes it real, that you will not be returning as a colleague here in the Senate. And I know that I speak for many others when I say that you will truly, truly be missed because a lot of institutional knowledge will be leaving this body. But we know where to find you. And at any rate, I want you to know that I love you dearly and will miss you immensely. Won't miss a lot of the stories, but will truly, truly miss you, Dick. And I always would tell Dick, when he would tell people the year that he was elected, I said, Dick, that was the year I graduated from college. But Thank you so much for being such an icon here, such a true gentleman, the epitome of the Virginia gentleman. And I wish that we could clone more people like you, because that's what's needed here in this body, are people like you, people who mean what they say and do what they say. And thank you so much for being who you are.
I thank the senator. Senator McDougall, the senator from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise for point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I got to know Senator Sasslaw when I was wet behind the ears in the House of Delegates, and we had a very contentious judicial hearing that went on, seemed like, for half the day. And I was seated between Senator Sasslaw. Well, I say seated. I was placed between Senator Sasslaw. I don't know that he remained seated much of that time. But during that very contentious point in time, really you saw the character of the individual that he was. And as I watched that and developed and moved from the House over to the Senate, you certainly see individuals, and he was never shy for telling a story, never shy for telling us his opinion. And frequently when I would go home and tell stories, Reagan would ask me about them, and then it became Reagan would say, well, what did Senator Coleslaw say today? Because she cannot pronounce his name. So he has forever been named at our house Senator Coleslaw. But he is the epitome of a Virginia gentleman, one that even though we frequently disagree on ideas, he is just an incredible person, willing to have that conversation and votes the way he believes. Truly a person that my daughter and others can look up for. Thank you, Senator Coleslaw, for your service to the Commonwealth and for being such an important part of Virginia history.
I thank the senator. Senator Favola, the senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to share a few thoughts about Dick that struck me when I first became a lawmaker. And the very first thought was, Dick, you were very supportive of female lawmakers. And that was a little unusual way back when. But I have to say that Dick was always very proud of who he was, too. He would come by rather frequently and say, I'm a feminist, just in case I missed that point. And so often, Dick would always help us frame an argument, right? And he was a big storyteller. And that's probably one of the most important lessons I've learned as a lawmaker is to stop talking about things so much in a policy arena, but go back to Dick's approach and tell a story. And it was a way to sort of make us think about what we were really doing and how it would affect people. So deep down in Dick's heart, he's a real people person. You may not see it initially, but it's there. And I just think that it's going to shine through. It will continue to shine through in your legacy. And I've really enjoyed working with you. I have learned so much. You have been a mentor to so many of us that, you know what? Your views and your thoughts are going to influence us for years to come. And you have made an indelibly good mark on the Commonwealth. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Eleanor, for being here, too.
I thank the senator. Senator Cosgrove, the senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. A point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I may have known Dick Sasslaw longer than most any of you, because I moved from North Carolina, Pope Air Force Base, to Springfield, Virginia, North Springfield, in 1962. And there was one place we always used to go to get our soda pop, and that was an Amoco station at the corner of Braddock and Backlick Road. I wonder who owned that gas station. I will tell you that I came into the House of Delegates in 2002, and after my very first session, I was under the impression that both Senator Norman and Senator Sasslaw were the princes of darkness. Then I came to the Senate in 2013 and found out I was right. No, but I will tell you, Senator Saslaw actually now owns a home right on the road where I grew up. And every time I see him, I say, "You taking care of the hood?" He says, "I got you. I got you." But he's just that kind of guy. He's got you. He's always been there for us. Agree or disagree, Dick, you've been a hoot. You've been a real mentor to a lot of people. I'm going to miss the heck out of you.
I thank the senator. Senator Vogel, the senator from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Like many members of this body, you approach your initial days with a degree of trepidation. You don't know anybody, but you know about the folklore. And I had certainly heard the folklore of Senator Saslaw. And like the senator from Lynchburg, my initial interaction was probably terrifying, would be a good word. And we engaged a little, and I was new, and the issues were hard, and it was a tumultuous year. And I remember my first couple interactions, and I kept thinking, gosh, you know, he's in the gasoline business. He can't be that much of a jerk. And which is, by the way, the family business. And I will tell you that I think I speak for everybody in this body when I say that there are many painful parts of doing this job. There are lots of boring days. There are people who are not fun. There are people with no sense of humor. There are people who are not charming. And I will tell you that after, yes, Stanley is making a face. But I will tell you, it didn't take more than probably, honestly, a week or two for me to realize that Senator Saslaw was not one of those people. He is joyful. He is fun. Even when he is fuming and furious, he's still a little bit funny. And I have to say that when I got to this body, I recall being amongst the greats, you know, the giants of this body, the people who had forged a path long before all of us. And I remember thinking, what happens when those people leave? When the Walter Stosh or John Watkins or Ken Stolley, how does the Senate actually go on? Does it actually go on? And well, we're here, and it has. But for those of you who stood up and said you always thought about this day coming, I can tell you the way I sit here and think about it is I'm not actually sure it will. When Senator Saslaw is not here, how can it possibly ever feel the same or be the same or go on without somebody who is that joyful and who is that kind and who has that spirit and who, of course, always sticks to his guns and, best of all, is so brutally honest. And I learned so much from him. And I, most of all, was always just totally enamored with how he could even approach a constituent in the face of an awkward conversation and be so brutally honest. And I would think, what an amazing lesson for just how to deal with people. And it's really true. And I think we all have learned so much from him. And so I will be sad for this institution. I do not know how it will go on without him. And so I just wanted to say and add my voice to all of those who've spoken a few words and say, we all love you dearly, Dick Saslaw. We do not know how another day will go on when you walk out of this building. So thanks, and our love to you and to Eleanor. Lots of fun in Hawaii.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I don't do well at times like this, like I don't do well at funerals. Anytime you lose a friend, I don't care how it happens, you feel so sad sometimes you have a hard time finding the words to express exactly how you feel. But I heard Yvonne Miller on this shoulder telling me, you've got to get up and say something. She would always tell me, you've got to say something. She'd also tell me times when I didn't need to say anything. that was more frequently than the time she told me other. But one of the things that I do remember that she said to me is she said, follow Dick Saslaw and you'll be okay. And so I used to ask Janet, do we really have to listen to everything that Dick says? And she said, well, until we're no longer freshmen. But then it was Hunter Andrews who said to us when we went to him our second year and told him that we were no longer freshmen and we wanted to be a part of the inner circle when he said that you'll be a freshman for as long as I say. But Saslaw convinced us that we didn't have to listen to everything that Hunter Andrews had to say either. One of the things that I learned about Dick Saslaw in telling stories, he was always trying to pull a story out of you. And I realized after I was here for a while that the reason he did that was because he was trying to learn more about you. And I didn't tell Dick a whole lot about me except what he already knew. And one of the things was he knew that I grew up during the time of segregation. He knew that my schools had been a part of massive resistance, that my schools had been closed down. And so he used to talk to me about things like that. And he knew that I had a heart for education. So he said, as a part of the steering committee, he was going to make sure that I served on Senate Education and Health. That was one of the first committees that I got assigned to when we had the big steering committees. Madam Clerk will remember that. And so once I got on Senate Education and Health, I said, no matter what committee you change me from, could you please just let me stay on Senate Education and Health? And so for the entire time that I have been in the Senate of Virginia, I have served on Education and Health, and it's because I knew that Dick Saslaw knew instinctively that that's where I wanted to be. And a lot of that was because of my lived experience having grown up in the South during the time of massive resistance and how much I've cared about education and health. So for that, even though I didn't tell you all of my stories because I'm going to take a lot of them to my grave, I thank you for being able to recognize what I really wanted to do and make sure that I got there. So for that, Dick Saslaw, I love you. And even at the times when I wasn't arguing with Tommy Norman and I was arguing with you, I still love both of you. But Tommy, you got to know he's okay. Senator Saslaw, I'm going to miss you. Yvonne told me to say that.
Chair recognizes Madam Clerk.
The first time, and I have seniority over Senator Saslaw by 1 year, so I asked for permission to do this. The first time I met him was right after he was elected to the Senate. Did not know him when he was in the House. You know, for us, you have to be in the House 10 years before we know who you are. And he comes walking in the clerk's office, which at that point was located where the lounge is now. And he sat down on the edge of my desk and he said, "Hey, I'm Dick." And I looked at him and I said, "It's really nice to meet you, Senator." "No, no, no, no. My name is Dick." I said, "Senator, you're coming to the Senate and you will be addressed as Senator." "Oh, no, no, no. I'm Dick. That's what they call me in the House." And I didn't really think first. And I looked at him and I said, "Then maybe you should have stayed in the House." And that was a good start we got off on. And I didn't get fired. I was amazed. We have a young man on the staff now. I think a lot of y'all have met Kyle Blankenship in IT. And Kyle came in for his first interview in the old GAB in one of the subcommittee rooms that had the glass all around the walls. So the IT staff was in there interviewing Kyle, and here comes Senator Saslaw. And he just thought it was a staff meeting, so he just walked in and started telling his mafia stories and all these other stories. And they said Kyle was sitting there with this stunned look on his face. And we called him back in for his second interview without Saslaw. And in the course of that interview, he said, "I thought that was part of the interview and you were testing me." And I thought, who are these people? So in CSL, Senator Saslaw has been a dedicated member of the National Conference of State Legislatures. And I had encouraged Senator McDougal to run for the executive committee. So at the Virginia night reception that night, they came to tell me what happened in the NCSL Executive Committee. Senator Saslaw was on the nominating committee. Senator McDougal was being interviewed. And another legislator from another state asked Senator McDougal, "Why are you running for this?" And he said, "Because my clerk told me I had to." And Senator Saslaw, the man said, "Your clerk told you that?" And Senator Saslaw said, "Look, let me tell you something. If we don't do what she says, she will put our desk in the middle of Broad Street." You've come close. So pages are always fascinated, and they watch a lot more than we think they do sometimes. But I had a group several years ago who came up to me and said, "Mrs. Shar, we have a question for you." I said, "Okay, what is it?" "Senator Saslaw comes up to your desk a lot when you're trying to read the calendar." I said, "He does." "Well, what's so important that he has to interrupt you reading the calendar?" I said, "Simple. We don't have any more cookies in the back, and we don't have his favorite soup." And they said, "That's what he's talking to you about?" I said, "Yes." Then, in an effort to keep him in his seat, we had a seat belt installed in his chair. He never saw it because he never sat down in his chair. Eleanor, this one involves you. He came in one day and he told me, he said, "You know, Eleanor and I were having a conversation. And I asked her if I could use, if she passed before I did, could I use her funeral as a fundraiser?" And I think you came back and said, "Yes, if I can bring the pool boy to your funeral." One of the most interesting experiences in my life here at the Senate was when Senator Andrews was defeated and realized that Senator Saslaw was going to follow him as majority leader. That was an interesting conversation. He said, "Bring him down here, Susan. I got to talk to him." So I got to go to Williamsburg with Senator Saslaw and Senator Andrews and sit there and listen. And I thought, this is going to be a whole new ball game. But you've done a great job. I'm honored to have worked with you. And we wish you the very best from all the Senate staff, but particularly the awesome caucus over here. We're going to miss your stories.
As we are at the end of the calendar, call on Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I would move at this point that we stand in recess until 3 p.m.
Without objection, the Senate stands at recess until 3 p.m.